Hey, it's KLOS New and Approved. I'm your host, Matt Pinfield, and I'm very excited to have my dear friend as my guest on the show. And she's actually somebody that I've known for a really long time and admired. She has her own show here on KLOS, which I love. It's called Whiplash, and it's on Mondays and Tuesdays. And we have such this incredible common bond and friendship. And I so admire what she's done. She's one of the greatest women in rock and roll, and certainly, I would probably have to go as far as saying one of the greatest people in rock and roll in the business. So I wanted to introduce her to our audience as well for the show of New and Approved, because if you don't know about Jackie's show and Jackie's background, it's really fascinating. Jackie, it's good to see you. How you doing?
What's up, Matt? It's so great to see you.
You know, it's amazing. A documentary just came out on WHTG, a station that we both worked at.
Yes.
It's like a 35-minute documentary that USA Today is airing on their streaming channel and Roku, and it's a 35-minute doc about this station. But it's pretty amazing because I thought about it. There are three important Jersey people. I'm not saying I'm important, but
Very important.
Three Jersey people on the air here at KLOS. Chris Carter from the band Dramarama, who's from Wayne, New Jersey, who does Breakfast with the Beatles. And
By the way, Dramarama I discovered because of listening to you on HTG when I was growing up. So it all comes together.
It comes full circle. Now you and I, Chris, work together here, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Jackie, we're going to get into the things that you do, but let's talk about your background with rock and loving rock. Because, you were on one of the most important college radio stations for rock in the country, which is SOU, Pirate Radio at Seton Hall University in New Jersey, which that's one of the things. But there's so much. Let's talk about your background and growing up in Jersey and how you discovered and decided music was something you were passionate about and ended up, of course, working in. So can you give us your background?
Sure. Yeah. I grew up listening to WSOU, which is Seton Hall's radio station, a metal station at a Catholic college. Go figure. And when I first started listening, they would start at 6 a.m. It was like community programming overnight because it was a college station. And at 6 a.m. every day it would start up. And I remember we'd be getting ready for school, listening to them opening with Henry Rollins or Death Angel or Manowar or like something really, truly epic. Like I still remember the songs that they would open WSOU with growing up. So, like I said, growing up in Jersey, listened to WSOU. And as I got older and, was decided, when I was going to college, I was like, I want to be on the radio at WSOU. I loved metal. I had a fake ID because I have an older sister and who says hello, by the way, Matt.
Yeah,
and,
I love her.
I got her ID and, did a little Full Metal Jackie background, sneaky, got a fake ID, was going to all the clubs in Jersey to see all the metal bands. And man, it seemed like every night that was an amazing show. Cricket Club, Studio One, Birch Hill. I know you know about all these places.
Yeah.
I was going to see hard rock and metal shows like as many nights as I could, starting from like 14 years old. And, as I was getting towards college age, I was like, I want to be at WSU. I love metal. I wanted to be, I wanted to work in the music world somehow. And I loved radio. I just fell in love with radio. So, I went to Seton Hall. I got on the air, which is not easy. It's not like, oh, hey, you want to be on the air? You have to learn about, broadcasting and learn about the laws and and the rules. And you have to start with your news clearance, doing the news on the radio. And, we all sucked at the beginning and then we learned our way. And that's where I truly fell in love with radio. And beyond that, wanted to be on radio, as a job. I was like, I love the behind the scenes aspect of music. I love metal. So I was on the air at WSOU. I graduated and, was growing up listening to you in Jersey on WHTG. What an amazing station that was. And so I decided, to pursue radio. I was on WDHA in Northern New Jersey. And then, I want to follow in your footsteps, listening to you on HTG, watching you on MTV. You were DJing at the Melody Bar and you were truly I wanted to emulate what you were doing because I was such a huge fan of yours. And I loved your knowledge of all things music and, just sort of it was about the music for you, and that's what I really loved. And a lot of jocks would be like, oh, my friend so and so from this band, and my friend, and I know you're friends with all the bands, but that's not what it was about. You were always about the music, and I felt like as a DJ, it's my job to, know my stuff, right? Know about the music, know who all the members are, know the backstory, know what these records are about, know about, how these guys get along, know about, what other bands they've been in. And, so that's what I did. I went to WSOU. I went to, I worked at WHTG. I DJ'd at the Melody Bar. I was the only female DJing there. Tough room, that place. But you know what? It's like, that's how I feel like every little thing leads to, where you are today. And it was such a fun time. And then I decided I wanted to move to Southern California and work in music. Right. I mean, and of course, get away from the cold. I'm such a wuss. I can't deal with the cold weather anymore. I'm sure.
Hey, can I be honest with you? It's funny. I just went back to our home state of New Jersey, and I've got nothing but love for my friends and my upbringing there and the music scene, and, just so many things about it. It's got a big part of my heart always. But I love living in Southern California like you. I don't want the cold weather anymore. I want to be here. And I love being a part of Southern California, LA, and KLOS. I mean, what's better than that, right?
I mean, listen, with legendary call letters, and I just am so grateful to get to do Whiplash on the air at KLOS. And, I'm going on, I calculated at the beginning of the year, and it's been over like 300 some odd shows I've been doing at KLOS. So I'm forever grateful. And I love the station, and I'm honored to get to do the show there and be on a station with you, like I said, followed you from HTG, the Melody Bar, all the way to Southern California. Now we're on the same station again.
Which I love. And I got to say, it's amazing because you and I got to do something really cool together early on. MySpace did their first ever live stream for Project Revolution, which was Linkin Park and a bunch of other bands, My Chemical Romance.
It was Detroit, right? It was in Detroit?
In Detroit, yes. And so it was amazing because they paired you and I up together to co-host that. And we, did our thing. We worked. We were live, I think, for 6 to 8 hours. It was a full-on broadcast for the length of the, and it was, but I had such a great time working with you. It was the best. I mean, we hit it off. We loved music, and it was just, we had so much fun. And that was a big deal for MySpace at that period of time because they had never done that before. And, companies were just starting to, experiment with live streaming at that period of time. But it was so much fun to work with you. Wasn't it a great experience?
It was a great day. And, I secretly have this love for My Chemical Romance. Don't tell anybody. But you remember that My Chem played that show, and I interviewed Gerard, and I still remember it to this day. And we interviewed all the bands that day, and it was such an amazing. And I'm so glad that we did. And had a chance to be part of a Linkin Park show, obviously. But it was such a fun time, and it was so great to get a chance to work with you.
It was great. And Jackie, let's tell everybody too about what you do now, because you're so involved and immersed in the rock world. Besides doing Whiplash here, which is such a great show, and your incredible history, you've been working in management in metal and rock for a long time, and you just do such a great job. I'm just always really. I admire your hard work ethic and what you do for your artists and your bands. Can we talk about that? Working with the company, right? It's Better Noise, and can you talk about that, because it's incredible that you've worked with and repped so many important bands in the rock genre right now, and that have been for quite a few years. Can you tell me how you ended up getting and making that shift into management?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in addition to wanting to be involved in radio, I wanted to be involved in the music business. And so as I was growing up and going to college, doing internships at record labels, and I worked at this company called Concrete, which is a management company back in the day for Pantera and all these huge metal bands. And then when I moved to LA, I wanted to work for this management company at the time that was called The Firm, which was the biggest management company, in the world at that time, which had, bands like, Linkin Park and Korn. And ultimately we ended up with Audioslave when those guys got together, and, a ton of huge bands at that time. So I started working at a management company because I wanted to sort of get involved in addition to radio. And so I started working for The Firm, when I first moved out here. And during my time there doing a radio show, I was on the air in Los Angeles prior to KLOS, and I was doing a metal show. And I discovered this band on MySpace called Five Finger Death Punch, which, it was early days for them. I found a song of theirs on MySpace, and I was like, oh my God, they don't have a record label. They don't have a management company. And, Matt, we get introduced to new bands all the time, and God bless them. It's so hard to be in a band and to make it these days. And when you're in the music business and you get given so many, hey, here's my CD, here's my, whatever, we're sort of like skeptics to start with. And it's like only when you like legit feel something are you like, oh my God, this is real. And I felt something when I heard that music from Five Finger Death Punch. So here I am, a young, manager at the firm, trying to walk around. I burnt a CD of their songs, and I'm saying to everyone, you guys, there's something real happening with this band. We need to we need to talk to them. They have no manager, they have no label. So fast forward, I ultimately signed them to management and label and went on the road with them, and worked for as a promotions person as well, getting them played on the radio. And here we are 15 years later, and they're one of the biggest bands in the hard rock space in the world. Highest streaming, highest performing, ticket sales, merch, album sales, all that. And I've got a chance since then. I'm working at a different management and label. So I'm a manager, I'm a radio promotions person, I'm a DJ. We all wear a lot of hats and have a lot of jobs. It all comes from my love for music. I'm a radio nerd. It's all about radio for me. I want to be on the radio. I want to work with radio programmers. It's like it all, comes together. But, like I said, today I work for a management company. I work for a record label. I do a syndicated radio show called Full Metal Jackie, and I do a specific show for KLOS called Whiplash. So I have 19 jobs.
Yeah, which is such a great thing. I mean, we're so similar in that way. We hustle because we love what we do, and we want to, continue to do so many different things. Let's talk about Five Finger Death Punch and their incredible rise. And, just one of the songs that we played so much from their last album, not their most recent album, was A Little Bit Off, which was, to me, one of the best songs that came out in 2020. And I told Ivan, who you manage, Ivan Moody, the singer, I said, that's one of my favorite songs of the year, easily. I just loved it. I felt like it captured what everybody was going through, that kind of in-between space that everybody was dealing with. Just an incredible song and a massive song for the band. Talk to me about working with these guys, because they're just such incredible, unique personalities as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite an experience, and it's been, so great to be there from the beginning, and where it was like I was traveling with them on their, bus, trying to get the first tour we put them on was the Family Values tour, because the firm who we signed to was also managing Korn and these other bands, and they own that property, the Family Values. And so I basically was out there dragging radio programmers down to the little stage to see Five Finger Death Punch, going, hey, you should be paying attention to this band. Look, all their, your listeners are singing all the lyrics and you're not playing them on the radio. So we left every date on that show with, radio starting to play The Bleeding. And, at that time it was like, this is the nerdy part of the business where you sit there and you look at numbers and you're like, is this working? There's radio airplay. And then suddenly it turns into album sales and you're like, oh my gosh, this is truly working. This is the days before streaming, obviously. And, these guys worked so hard, and now they're, a global force and one of the biggest bands in the space. They're going to be touring with Metallica for the next 2 years. Like, I don't think it gets any bigger than that.
Yeah,
and
it's amazing, right? And their latest album with all the great songs on there, like Afterlife and Welcome to the Circus, which is so great. There's so much. I mean, that's one of the highest performing songs in rock right now, which is so great to see, right?
Yeah, highest streaming songs. And they went on a tour at the end of last year. They did 2 tours, one where they had Megadeth opening, which of course is a huge deal because, the guys grew up listening to bands like Megadeth, and next thing you know, Megadeth is support for Five Finger Death Punch, which is tremendous. And it was such an amazing tour. And then they took Brantley Gilbert on the road, which everyone was a little stunned by at the time. Meanwhile, there was something happening where sort of some of these country artists were crossing over to rock. And now, there's a couple of artists,
like Hardy, right? And Jelly Roll.
So, they were ahead of the game with making that move. And now Nickelback took Brantley Gilbert on the road. So, it's obviously becoming a thing. And, I love seeing the crossover with different genres, because I mean, look, if you think about it, going back to like when WHTG, when I was on that station, there, like what was happening at alternative radio and rock radio was very similar. Alternative stations were playing Godsmack and Linkin Park and these rock acts. It's not like that anymore, but it's very interesting. And I love when something new and different happens, because it makes it feel fresh and exciting, and you're like, wow, something different is happening, which I think we need at rock right now. So it's a very exciting time for rock.
It absolutely is. When you see an artist like Hardy play, like he'll do a country show and then change venues and go like over and then do a rock set as well. But you could definitely see when they took Brantley out that was just it was a cool move. And it reminds me of when they used to put bands from all different genres on bills, way before my time, when I was a little kid. But you would hear about Bill Graham and these people that would, although it was really interesting, you would, when I was a kid, I'd go see Cheap Trick, UFO, and Rush all in the same bill. I mean, they're all rock bands, but they had different audiences, because you have one band that was like a prog band, one Cheap Trick were, like it was rock, but it had like a power pop feel to it, and UFO were, straight up hard rock, echoes of metal band at that period of time. So it was very, that was cool to see. But I gotta say, I love how well the guys are doing. Now, you work with a lot of other artists as well. So can we talk about some of the other people that you work with?
Sure. I mean, on the label side, bands like Nothing More, 3-time Grammy nominated band, The Who, which is this Mongolian rock band, not the Who like the WHO, but the HU, the
yes.
Who. This Mongolian rock band that is a force, and granted they're singing in Mongolian and we can't understand what they're saying, but if you see the translation, there are beautiful lyrics, and we've released songs with features from American artists like Jacoby, and we had
Lizzie Hale.
And actually, we're now just going to be releasing one with William Duvall from Alice in Chains, which is just such a very cool collaboration, that he was actually involved in writing the lyrics to the song, and he produced the the track, and he's in the video. And we're so excited because, like, I mean, the Who, what rock bands are getting invited to like Coachella and Lollapalooza? The Who did, and meanwhile they opened for Five Finger Death Punch and Megadeth, and they were able to rock that too. So I feel like that's a true music is universal. Like, look, we all sit there and bang our fists to like Rammstein. We don't know what they're saying.
No, we don't. Yeah. And we love it, though. And that's the thing. Let's go back and talk about Nothing More, that great band that you have. Their latest album is absolutely fantastic. I love that record. So many great songs on that.
Tremendous live, too. They're such an amazing live band. They do something very unique. Another band that, like, when I went to see, when we were first looking to sign them, and, I'm going to be honest, sometimes when you go see new bands, you're like this, right? And you're like,
well, because
all right,
we've seen so many. But we want to be blown away, right? Like, we always want that to be blown away, because that's why we got into it in the first place. We want to love something. We want to love that band. We want to love music. We want to believe it. And I think the thing that was so unique about Nothing More is right from the get-go, they had a unique style, their way of their songs, and I think you can really see that on the new record as well. But I remember those really early shows they did, playing the old Welcome to Rockville, like in Jacksonville, Florida. Like, was the first time.
You happen to get to, when they were first starting out and they didn't have a tour bus, they made their own sort of little bus out of they bought a school bus, okay, and they converted it into, they had like little beds, and they had little cooking area, like they made it themselves, like a taco truck kind of thing, like, yeah. And it was unbelievable. And it's like, just like they built, the Scorpion and the apparatus that's up on stage when they perform. I always loved thinking back to that bus, because it was probably a safety hazard, but they made it work. And you got to admit, for like new bands, just going back to, the whole this, and I don't mean like that, I'm like that for every band, but when you are in a position where it's like, hey, sign my band, read my script, everybody's handing you music, handing you things, it's gotta be great, right?
It does. We've been going through that for years, because that's the business we wanted to be in, but we want to be blown away. We want to believe you. We want to be knocked out. Right?
But it's not always that way. It's 1 out of every 1,000 that is, right?
Yes, so it's 1 out of every 1,000. It's true.
And also it's harder for bands now, because I was just having a conversation with an artist the other day about this, how much harder it is for new bands. Because like, look, growing up, when we were either like, for me, it was like finding a cassette or a CD of something, or, vinyl, and you'd have to really search or hear a song on the radio. Now people will listen to 2 seconds because they could pull up anything on YouTube or, streaming platforms. And then they're like, I don't know. They make their decision based on just a few seconds of some random song, as opposed to having to listen to a, full body of work where you really get the sense of who they are. It's got to be harder than ever. I can't imagine how hard it is for a band trying to make things happen now. I mean, I guess in some ways, yes, you as an artist can on your own release music and put videos out there and work your socials, which didn't exist back in the day, but also the way people consume music is so different. And I think discovering music and new bands is just such a different experience now that it's just harder for bands.
Yeah, it really is. But it's, that's why, people have different opinions on all of that. But we do give bands credit that work really hard and just stick it out, because that's what they have to do. And they have to build a fan base, whether that's, hoping that peer-to-peer it works out, or their live performance, getting on live shows and seeing if they can get opening for bands that they like, that already have an audience, or people that are like-minded. So, yeah, it's an incredible thing out there, and it's changed so rapidly, hasn't it? Like, technology has changed.
It's unbelievable. I mean, part of me is like, oh, wow, this is so great. We can, connect with our favorite artists, or look up songs or videos at any second. But is it too much? Sometimes there's definitely artists where they shouldn't have access to their own social media, and you're like, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because it's so true. Because they got a lot of that foot and mouth disease, and I think we all learn sometimes going through it. But I definitely feel like some bands, there needs to be some kind of schooling or some kind of lesson on how often you post and what you post about.
What you're posting about, yeah.
What you're posting about is a really, because sometimes you can do more damage than good when you're reaching out to your audience out there. So,
Yeah.
But Jackie, this is amazing. Talk to me about the things that you feature on Whiplash.
So on Whiplash, I like to have like a combination of the classic stuff and a taste of sort of like the new stuff of what's going on, So, there'll definitely be Black Sabbath and Metallica and Megadeth and Pantera and that sort of thing. And then obviously what's going on at Active Rock. So playing like the new songs that are happening at Rock. And then obviously love, giving away tickets and featuring bands that are coming to the market. And there's so many. It's unbelievable how many shows. How lucky are we to live in Southern California, where like every band will come through here at some point. Probably
it's phenomenal. Twice. It's the greatest place in the world to live. Again, we're from the New Jersey, New York area, but it's so much easier to see a lot of great live music out here where we are. You know what I mean?
Right. No, and when bands announce their tours, and there's always, when you read the comments, why not in, Des Moines? Why are you not coming? Like, I feel so bad
to
for
Pittsburgh.
people.
And then you feel bad because we love those people, and we love our music fans everywhere that are big rock fans. But yeah, we're very, very spoiled and lucky that everybody comes through. But it's a good thing. We do appreciate it, though.
Right, for sure. But yeah, going back to Whiplash. Sorry, so much that to talk about with you. I get very distracted. So, in Whiplash, it's all about the classic metal hits, like stuff that you would have heard on like Headbangers Ball, and and also the hit, big metal stuff from the 90s. So it's really a hard rock and metal show. And then of course, playing the Active Rock hits that are happening right now, the Shinedown, Volbeat, Five Finger Death Punch, and so I try to do a little bit of everything there in the 1 hour Monday night and 1 hour Tuesday night. And I never get to everything I want to, but I try to feature as much as possible in the short time.
Yeah, but it's a great show, and it's great that it's there 2 nights in a row. I know that a lot of people that are either working late or coming home late or doing things love that they have 2 nights in a row that they get to listen to it. So people have been saying that to me, and I think it's awesome. And then you've got
it's 2 different obviously, I always want to emphasize to people those are 2 different nights. It's not like the same show repeated.
No, which I love. Yeah,
bands, artists, guest interviews that happen on both nights, and we give away tickets to like every great show. So excited about presenting some great shows that are coming to town, and it's just such an exciting time in hard rock and metal right now.
It really is. I mean, there's no community, I think, that is more devoted than the rock community, the hard rock and metal community, and the new active rock community, or whatever you want to call them. But they love the music, and they come out for it. And they, believe it's a sense of family with the community there. It really is, right?
I agree, but I will say that I think what we can do better at, there's definitely this like weird, like metal elite that will go, that's not metal enough, or that doesn't belong in here. And I feel like we got to stop that, because we can sit here and complain that metal's not featured in the Grammy the Grammy broadcast, or we're never going to have a metal act playing at the Super Bowl. Or we could like come together and go, hey, it's a huge umbrella of music that we should be more welcoming, as opposed to, oh, you don't deserve to be in this category. I think that, like, look, I'm not saying, I think part of us likes to be the underdog, because like the moment something becomes mainstream, is it not cool anymore? It's a classic argument. But in terms of like, for those of us that would like for hard rock to have a larger space, we all need to come together and not be so like, oh, this is this category, this is this subgenre,
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I think hopefully we'll see more of that. I mean, you'll always have people that will argue for hours online, go back and forth with each other. But I know people like you and I are definitely more welcoming, because there's so much great music out there, and music from different eras too, and it keeps evolving, and that's the important thing too, because there's new art. We love the classic artists that we love, but we also want to give a chance to those great new bands that are coming out, and people that are keeping the rock alive. It's really important,
Of course, because at some point, these other bands that we know and love are going to retire. And if we continue to separate or not accept these bands under this umbrella, we're going to have nothing. So I think that we have to just sort of like, support and nurture these up and comers, and, love to the bigger bands that want to give those bands a chance.
Yes.
I was actually just, interviewing an artist who said, you know what, I want to pay it forward. I was given a chance, to be on bigger tours when I was up and coming, and I want to do the same. And I love bands that do that, and they need to do more of that to help strengthen this genre.
Absolutely. And bring up the superstars of tomorrow in metal and rock, right? It's so important. Jackie, I just want to say how great it was to have you on the show here, and it's so cool to catch up with you. You know that I love you. You, again, I just love your love and passion. It's been great to be able to work alongside you, to work at the same station with you, and it's just always good to catch up with you. So thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you, Matt. You're my hero. I can't tell you this enough, and I'm grateful for you. And I feel very lucky to still get a chance to work with you and to call you a friend. So thanks for all that you do.
Yeah, that means the world to me. Thank you, Jack. I feel the exact same way about you. Thank you. KLOS New and Approved. Don't forget, check out Jackie's incredible show, Whiplash. It's 2 different shows, Monday and Tuesday night at midnight. And if you want to hear great new metal, hard rock, old metal, interviews, get some great chances to win tickets as well, you've got to check out the show. Thanks so much for joining us. It was Jackie Kaiser. I'm Matt Pinfield. We appreciate you watching and listening to KLOS New and Approved.